a sex and love addiction. This is my share because I think it's necessary. I came to understanding sex and love addiction 3 years ago. And it was in the office of my therapist after breaking up with the guy I thought I was going to marry and have babies with. I kind of spiraled out of control towards the end of our relationship, just angry and confused, and everything felt like it was rushing to me all at one time, all the time. And I remember going to the therapist, and I want to say we were 3 days in, and she shared with me some questions. And at that time, if you answered more than a certain amount to those questions, yes, it was an easy kind of indicator to you potentially being a sex and love addict. Now they've changed the process and the understanding, and by no means in my sharing do I want anyone to feel like what I'm saying to them means that they are the same or not. But I do want to bring awareness to something that I hadn't heard about or knew anything about. And I'm super grateful that someone cared enough to share it with me, and I'm going to care enough right now to share it with you. If any of these sound like you, I think it's a perfect opportunity for you to go and seek out a professional just to get more understanding and some help. But again, no shape or form am I saying that because you answer yes to these, that this is your journey and not necessarily just mine. It states even on the website, the 40 questions are a tool to help you determine for yourself if you could be a sex and love addict. There is no confirming number of yes or no answers. Only you can decide. If you still aren't sure after answering these questions, we recommend trying a meeting, I do as well, where you can listen to recovering members share their experiences. Have you ever tried to control how much sex to have or how often you would see someone? Do you find yourself unable to stop seeing a specific person even though you know that seeing this person is destructive to you? Do you feel that you don't want anyone to know about your sexual or romantic activities? Do you feel the need to hide these activities from others, like friends, family, coworkers, or counselors? Do you get high from sex and or romance? Do you crash? Have you had sex in inappropriate times, in inappropriate places, and or with inappropriate people? Do you make promises to yourself or rules for yourself concerning your sexual or romantic behavior that you find you cannot follow? Have you had or do you have sex with someone who you didn't want to have sex with? Do you believe that sex and or relationship will make your life bearable? Have you ever felt that you had to have sex? Do you believe that someone can fix you? Do you keep a list, written or otherwise, of the number of partners you've had? Do you feel desperation or uneasiness when you are away from your lover or sexual partner? Have you lost count of the number of sexual partners that you had? Do you feel desperate about your need for a lover, sexual fix, or future mate? Have you or do you have sex regardless of the consequences? Example being like the threat of being caught, the risk of contracting herpes, gonorrhea, AIDS, etc. Do you find that you have a pattern of repeating bad relationships? Do you feel that your only or major value in a relationship is your ability to perform sexually or provide an emotional fix? Do you feel like a lifeless puppet unless there is someone around with whom you can flirt? Do you feel that you're not really alive unless you are with your sexual or romantic partner? Do you feel entitled to sex? Do you find yourself in a relationship that you cannot leave? Have you ever threatened your financial stability or standing in the community by pursuing a sexual partner? Do you believe that the problems in your love life result from not having enough of or the right kind of sex, or from continuing to remain with the wrong person? Have you ever had a serious relationship that threatened or destroyed because of outside sexual activity? Do you feel that life would have no meaning without a love relationship or without sex? Do you feel that you would have no identity if you were not someone's lover? Do you find yourself flirting or sexualizing with someone even if you don't mean to? Does your sexual or romantic behavior affect your reputation? Do you have sex and or relationships to try to deal with or escape life's problems? Do you feel uncomfortable about your masturbation because of the frequency with which you masturbate, the fantasies you engage in, or the props you use in, or the places in which you do it? Do you engage in the practice of voyeurism, exhibitionism, etc., in ways that bring discomfort and pain? Do you find yourself needing greater and greater variety of energy in your sexual or romantic activities just to achieve an acceptable level of physical and emotional relief? Do you need to have sex or fall in love in order to feel like a real man or a real woman? Do you feel that your sexual or romantic behavior is about rewarding as hijacking a revolving door? Are you jaded? Are you unable to concentrate on other areas of your life because of the thoughts or the feelings you have about another person or about sex? Do you find yourself obsessing about a specific person or sexual act even though these thoughts bring pain, craving, or discomfort? Have you ever wished you could stop or control your sexual or romantic activities for a given period of time? Have you ever wished you could be less emotionally dependent? Do you find the pain in your life increasing no matter what you do? Are you afraid that deep down you are unacceptable? Do you feel that you lack dignity and wholeness? Do you feel that your sexual or romantic life affects your spiritual life in a negative way? Do you feel that your life is unmanageable because of your sexual and romantic behaviors or your excessive codependency needs? And have you ever thought that there might be more you could do with your life if you were not so driven by sexual romantic pursuits? Then it asks you how many questions, or it tells you, how many questions you answered yes to. I will have a link to this quiz or this questionnaire in the description box, but definitely on Enough.ThePodcast. And even reading these, it brought me back to the places and faces and people who some of these yeses were about. I can start back with the early stories of even losing my virginity. I grew up with an understanding that I was supposed to wait until something special. And even talking to my mom about it, sharing this understanding that like I didn't want to. But the time came in high school to transition to college, and I met a guy who I was head over heels for. Older, was out of high school, at that time I believe out of college, and I just knew that I didn't want to be a virgin when I started to pursue a relationship with him. I had a friend who lived in the same area as me, and we made this understanding that I'd lose my virginity so I could be prepared for that guy. And in the process of losing my virginity, I hurt this younger than me guy who truly cared about me and probably loved me because I wanted to be ready for this man who didn't care about me and didn't love me, which I know now, did not know then. And it was like this spiral and the start of like this manipulative fog that kind of crept in through my life. I started a romantic relationship with the older dude, and it was horrible. Like, even thinking about it right now from the context of the questions, but the context of just wanting to share my story in a really vulnerable way, that like feels kind of scary, but healed by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony, that I just wanted to share. We proceeded to talk. If you're not from an area or place or time where you use the language talking is like y'all are literally talking, but not a couple. Situationship, I guess, is like the new term for it. And we were in a situationship. And I remember one night going to his house thinking that like we were actually going to spend time together and get to know each other. And I remember us hooking up and his mother coming up. Now, at that time, I was young, still foolish, and I really thought that like this dude lived alone in this really nice house, and it never dawned on me that like he didn't until his mom came home and he asked me to hide in a closet. And And I probably have told 2 people this story, so now the world will know. Or my hope, because I'm thinking that this thing is going to be big, because I want to free people like I'm free. But anyway, I remember standing in that closet thinking, how do I value myself as much as I say I do, but I'm here? That I value this man more to not blow up his spot or embarrass him with his mother. That I'd stand here and be here in this space. And I wish that was like the end of me valuing men more than I value myself. It literally, thinking about it now, feels like it was kind of the start of a normal thing being extremely toxic. Fast forward, I get into these like meaningless, nothing, unrequited relationships where it's a desire to be with this person first and an understanding that I'm putting myself last. And I didn't really know that at the time, but I knew something was wrong. Dated through college and met guys who I cared about, like, immensely. And then this weird thing happened. Those dudes that I cared about, I didn't sleep with. And the dudes that I slept with, I didn't care about. And for the record, not because anyone's journey is better or greater or bigger or smaller, but to share so that if someone feels like what I'm saying is like them, but their body count is low, I wasn't at that time with a lot of guys. I was very intentional with my chaos, that I would sleep with a guy, and if I was sleeping with him, I slept with no one else. But the guys I was actively dating and going on dates with and in relationships with, I wouldn't sleep with them because I loved them, because I was sleeping with a guy that I didn't care about. So, a very, again, toxic environment. I was with this guy who left while I was where he thought was sleeping. I wanted to just be wifely, I guess, now that I have the language I didn't have then, where I wanted to tend to him and take care of him and be present for him. And in that, I heard him say I was boring as he left while he thought I was asleep. Got to his car, and my window of my apartment overlooked the parking lot, and I could hear him on the phone, like, disappointed that I was the way I was. And I think that was like a stake in a cement of not really caring anymore about being wifely and being mindful of getting mine, And at that time, I lived on my own in the city, and I met a guy who I was madly in love with and tried to have sex with him, but I couldn't. It was like this weird like paradigm of like, I care about this person, so I don't know how to give them my body, but I care about them so much I want to give them my body. So we did like dry humping and stupid stuff like that, where I felt so connected to him and I really truly loved him. And one day he took me on this amazing date, and on the way to the date he told me that he needed to go get like his hockey skates because he was going to go to hockey practice or whatever, and I was going to go with him, and he couldn't find them in the car. So he proceeds to drive to his parents' house. We lived across the street from each other, and his mom lived in like the county area of our city. And we drive to her house, and he's like, oh, well, I don't want you to wait in the car. Come inside and meet my mom. And immediately I felt like this dirty, filthy shame that I wasn't worthy of meeting his mom, that I wasn't good enough to meet his mom. So I stayed in the car. And he proceeds to be in that house for like 40 minutes. And it's like, is he in there this long? Because he's like hoping that I'll like get over myself and go in there and meet his mom. And I didn't. And he comes out, he has his hockey skates, and we proceed to go to an ice skating rink and had the best date. We go after that to eat food, and this old couple comes over, and I mean, like, even while we were skating, like, this couple comes over and says, like, you guys got it, you guys got it, you guys got it. And I never could connect. And fast forward years later, I reach out to him, and he's living the life that he shared he wanted to live. Not necessarily with me, but with me. You know, when you like do the talking about like your future, and you look at wedding dresses, and you talk about marriage, and you do all those things. That the life that he shared while we were essentially dating is the life that he had been leading with his wife. And I just remember feeling like, why are these like fundamental things for me so off and like broken? And after dating him and others, I mean the guys I meet and sleep with in a car, because I thought like if we slept together we'd be together. The guys I met that I dated for insanely long periods of time that I wouldn't kiss or like let touch me, because I felt like they were worthy and deserving of a better woman than me. And let's not pretend like our music and our media doesn't say it's okay. What I'm saying is there's such a better way. And countless guy after guy, it just kept breaking and breaking and breaking to the point I met my old coworker. And in knowing him, I remember the first day we started our jobs at the same time, that I immediately knew I wanted him in my life. And he had a girlfriend. And I've never been a girl to like cheat. If you don't want to be in a relationship with someone, don't. If you're not happy in a relationship, communicate or leave. You know, but I couldn't shake that like I really wanted to be with him. So we begin this twister, because you know, you hear people say whirlwind and you think like, oh, it's beautiful. This twister of a romance where we only got to see each other and be with each other at work, to the tune of like having sex at my office or in a closet at our job, or sneaking off to just spend time going and run errands for work together, and going to work lunches and sitting beside each other and touching and feeling under tables or in parking lots or whatever. And I remember one day we were hooking up in the parking lot of like an arcade kind of event space, and I hated myself. And I've never felt hatred for myself ever. I could understand dislike, I could understand discontentment or disconnected, like this doesn't feel like my body when I wasn't the ideal way I wanted to be, or this doesn't feel like the way I want my hair to be or how I want to look or whatever, but never hate. And I remember feeling hate, like, I hate this for you. I hate that you know you want more than this, but this is what you're taking. And not understanding why. Just like always this constant like, why am I doing this but not doing anything better? And I met my ex. And I loved him. I think it was like the first time I really loved someone. And I was just so messed up from doing my own thing and being my own person. I couldn't even process our relationship right. When we met, I literally was like, he was younger than me, and it's like, little dude, like, you can't keep up. Like, I like grown men. I ain't got time for this, blah, 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 blah. And our relationship literally started out of like a sexual one. And he'd come over and we'd hook up, and he'd like leave stuff and try to like mark his territory when he was gone. And everything just moved so quickly because of how broken I was. So like, started dating because he was the closest dude, and I was in this physical relationship with him, and he was creeping into emotional territory where it's like, I want to see you outside of having sex. I want to talk to you outside of linking and sending a you up text and all of those things. So like we start to do this blend of both that I just hadn't done before really well or at all. And because of how often we were seeing each other, I like leave my apartment door open so he could just come in and we could have sex. And one night he was like, this is dangerous, like anyone could come in, you gotta stop doing this. So I gave him a key. Then months after that he moved in, and then months after that it's like we're living together, we're a full-fledged couple. And at this point I'm like, I don't know how to be this, I don't know how to emotionally connect, I don't know how to be vulnerable, I don't know how to share who I am and what scares me and what my concerns are about us. But it was working. We got along. My family loved him. His family loved me. The family I got to meet, at least. And nothing made it seem like it wasn't going to work until he wanted from me things I couldn't provide. Like, I had a long day and I just want you to understand how to talk to me about it. And I couldn't. I didn't know how. Or me wanting things from him, like, I want to share stuff with you, but I need to know I can. And him trying to listen and be and do, but me not trusting that he could or I could or whatever. And we dated for a little under 2 years. And in that time, just volatile, arguing and fussing, and his ex is cropping and popping up, and he had a child and baby mama drama and blah, 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 blah. And our last fight, I remember just seeing red, like wanting to kill him and being so upset with him that I just didn't know what to do. So we called it quits. After being on and getting off again for a while, we called it quits. And I met the therapist. And I had to share all of that with you very quickly. Not even like the context of the whole story. But enough to see and show that it looks different for each person. But I want to hear women talk about addiction. And I want to hear women who talk about addiction who look like me. And I'm hoping that by sharing and being in this space, that you could understand and hear my heart. In the beginnings of the process, I didn't think it was as serious as it was, or that like this could be a real thing. And I remember, and I tell this joke to people all the time, that like I remember the very first time I heard anything about a sex addict was when Eric Benet cheated on Halle Berry. And that was like the talk of the town. Everybody had something to say, like, how dare he cheat on Halle Berry? Who would cheat on Halle Berry? Blah, 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 blah. And I remember they was like, this is just made up. Men just make that up so they can get as much as they want. And I'm sitting in this office and I hear this woman tell me this Eric Benet dirty thing, and it's just like, not me. And I walked into my first meeting, and I remember one of the women sharing, and we all start with, hi, my name is Riki, and at that time, I'm a sex and love addict. And it became my turn, and I didn't even know how to use those words. Like, how can you tell me I'm this thing that I don't even know that I am? I just found out, and how do I confirm it? And I'm like, I'm saying what they're saying. I'm a codependent sex and love addict is what I kept hearing as the room circled and the room circle. And my go comes, and I'm listening, but trying to say it, but in listening, heard a woman say that she had been addicted to heroin. She had been addicted to meth. And the hardest drug to kick was sex. And I thought, that's crazy. This isn't me. I don't belong in this space. And another woman shared, and you never share shares, but this has been 3 years, so I'm going to share. But another woman shared that it was destroying her relationship because she desperately wanted to connect to her husband and she couldn't. Then another woman shared about how she was having sex in alleys and she felt no different than when she was in alleys scoring meth or scoring drugs. And I mean, just hearing this, and it's like, well, I've never done that. And then having the recollection, which I now know is Holy Spirit, say to me, yeah, you did. That night with that guy that you thought cared about you and wanted to be with you and be serious with you and like lead a better life with you, to find out that that same guy, when I went on vacation for I think my birthday for a week, we worked together at a separate job, which I helped him get, by the way, thinking that that was the right thing to do. Slept with my coworker and was not remorseful. And when I got back, found out because everyone was talking about it. And in confronting both of them, they started dating and didn't care at the job. So it's like, you're judging these women and this is you. This is your story. And very swept under the rug, plain, oh, well, this is an isolated incident. This is you. And you're in a room with these women of all ages, all races, all sizes, all experiences, all sexualities, sharing about you with all these different you faces and you bodies, but you stories. And I realized I had a problem and that I was also a codependent sex and love addict. I attended as many meetings as I could. If you go through fellowship-wide services, or we call the A programs like NA, LMNOPA, that they ask you to do like 90 and 90 for hard drugs. And I remember like trying to get in and go to these classes and programs and like get all the information and you read from a big book and doing all the things. And I kept going to these meetings, and even the women's only groups were like few and far in between. And I'd be in a room with all these men, and I felt so yucky and so gross because it's men. And like, I have this thing men have, and this is crazy. And the first true month that I really realized that like, this is bigger than just sex, because I stopped having sex. I was like, okay, well, this is the problem. I'm gonna stop having sex. But I mean, my waiter, sexualizing him and feeling like I should get his number and feel the thrill of flirting, and couldn't do that. Guy friends, having to cut them off because it was seriously platonic, but still a connection nonetheless. And month 2, I remember being in this living room, curled up on the floor, writhing in pain, gagging, throwing up, sweating. And I could only recall and remember it being the withdrawals I've seen in movies. And I had the realization that if I'm withdrawing, that means my brain and my body has responded to an addiction. And to that, it's like, there's actually a problem here. I just want to say to women, this is a real thing, and it looks like us, especially women of color. It looks like us. It looks like our culture. It looks like our friendship circles. It looks like our moms and our grandmas who knew, I gotta get a light bill paid. So if I don't have a husband and I'm a single mother, I gotta do what I gotta do to take care of my kids. It looks like your friends living their best life, their hot girl summers, and it looks like our culture in such a way that it doesn't look like anything. And because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, I would be remiss to not share how hard this actually was and how difficult this really was for me, but not just me, my friends. And you'll see an episode where I kind of talk with my friends about the process of understanding sobriety, and how even more recently realizing that I actually had an addiction before sex and love. I was an alcoholic and I struggled with alcoholism, and I didn't even know that until hosting a group because I was struggling so desperately while I was in my relationship with Jesus Christ to stake what I didn't know at the time was in a recovery process, because I thought that I was sober until I realized I wasn't. That I hosted a group trying to find community in sobriety and recovery around the book Reframe Your Shame by Pastor Irene Rollins, which I highly recommend that you read, and I'll put that information in the description bar as well. But in hosting this book about her, hosting this group about her book, that I had that problem too. And in that episode, my friends are sharing some really difficult things about what our friendship looked like or what life looked like and how problematic it could be. And I just wanted to give some context and some detail to my story. I am not hiding. I am not ashamed. It's my testimony. I know for a fact that God sent his son Jesus Christ to die for my sins, which washed me new. I got baptized again in September of 21. I am a whole new person. I feel restored and redeemed. And I truly trust that I'm in the best place I've ever been. And I know that God is going to open out blessings for me that are going to blow my mind. And I want that for you. If my story sounds anything like you or a friend, I highly recommend you send them this video. Or you watch it again with just an open heart and an open mind to hear me share with you my ugly and my yuck and my mess, so that you can hear that you're not alone. I felt so alone for the longest time in this until I started going to meetings. And there's this weird thing when you're in a room full of people who share the ugliest parts of you, that one, you feel seen, but two, you feel concerned and sad and all these feelings, like in a ball of how can I get better? How can we get better? How can we do this? And it's just all these things, but I'm so grateful I did it, because at that time when I was going through it, I want to say I met maybe 5 women in my 3-year journey who were Black, and 3 women who were my age, and in that, Black and my age, and in that, it felt like something was missing. I'm hoping this is the start of wider conversations, more exposure, more help. And I do ask that if you watch this video and you made it this far, that you would sign my petition to have sex and love addiction therapy and other behavioral-based therapies, behavioral addiction, based therapies covered by insurance. And this entire conversation I talked about, I had to pay for my therapy resources specific to sex and love addiction out of pocket. In getting therapy, my therapists weren't really educated on sex and love addiction. I'm grateful to beans that the woman who helped me had that education, because it was a passion of hers to see addictions eradicated. But outside of her, no one knew. And I've been attending on and off therapy since I was 13, and no one caught it until I was almost 30. And what would my life have been if more people had the tools and resources that they needed? So I believe wholeheartedly in being the change you wish to see in the world, that I want to do that. So sign the petition, fill out the questionnaire, talk to some people who really love you and know you, and let's do this thing together, this hard thing together. There are more episodes coming. I'll be kind of in the same environment, sharing with you my heart and more information about my journey and my friends' journeys, so that you can realize you're not by yourself. God truly thinks that you are to die for, and he sent his son Jesus just for that. If you are not plugged into a good Bible-based church, I'll have resources on the website as well. And I love you. God loves you. And we're so excited that we get to do this thing together. I am excited that God trusts me with you, his beautiful child, who may have felt alone and saw this and thought, what is this about? Or, ooh, this is what I needed. And if you don't mind, send me some encouragement. This is hard, especially doing it alone. With my girls, it's so much easier to just bounce conversation off each other and keep talking. But by myself, this is big and overwhelming, but I know I can do it. So I just want to thank you for watching this long. Thank you for letting me share the parts I remember and the parts I'm willing. And I hope that if this does sound like you, that you'll reach out to me at the website and get in touch with me. And you don't have to do this thing by yourself. I also have the fellowship-wide programs listed on the website, as well as Celebrate Recovery, which is a more faith-based, with Jesus Christ at the center organization. But I think there is a need for both. I love you. I'm happy that you're here. And I'm out. Bye.